Welcome to Inquiry into Self. So, I'm going to talk about the experience of having a highly sensitive body in the experience of noticing what we actually are, awakening to our true being. Now, in this realm, nothing I say is true because the opposite can be equally true. It kind of seems like it is a difficult topic. And it can become more opaque than clear by just a minor emphasis that changes. So I want to express this to sort of a feel of the journey that has happened here and could possibly be useful for other people. First, highly sensitive people. This is a category that is already defined. You can look it up online. Most people who are a highly sensitive person are likely to know that, or at least to have guessed that. So I'm not going to define a highly sensitive person. I'm just going to generally say we're all different. Some people are more sensitive auditorily, some people energetically, some people emotionally, some people electrically. It just varies all over the board. So I'm going to talk about things more generally so that maybe it will be more useful for a wider range of people. And first, I just want to start out by these are experiences happening because we have a human body. Without a human body, most of these things would not be experienced. So they are not part of what we actually are. They are not part of our infinite being. They're not essential to us. These are literally experiences passing through what we actually are. So, from the biggest scheme of things, I can just feel I am the infinite. I am the space. I am the emptiness. I'm the nothing. And I know that I'm okay. And regardless of how intense things go in my body, there's that knowing. Now, obviously, if things are really intense in the body, I mean, I suppose if anybody had just broken their leg and it was a compound fracture sticking out of their skin, yeah, they could feel some okayness, but there would also be some attention, a lot of attention going towards that. And at various times, the body's experiences can be so intense that, yes, of course, they draw a lot of attention. And there's like this just background underneath, surrounding, however you want to say it, knowing that I'm okay, it's okay. Something that I've found especially helpful is as I know this infinite that I am, I see all these nodes of experience that we each are to be in this intricate net. And this net doesn't in any way cause a unique experience here that isn't created by the whole net. The whole net moves together, creates all the beauty in the world, all the love in the world, all the joy in the world, the opportunity to experience life. So the net, from that perspective, I'd say is fundamentally benevolent. And the net, you can't just like change one little part. It's a net, right? So as I'm experiencing it, each of the node, as the net waves, nodes will be in a point of contraction or in a point of extreme expansion. And, based upon our history, we probably have a comfort zone. I've noticed, I have a particular range. I like a certain amount of contraction, a certain amount of expansion. A lot of expansion can feel like lostness, and a lot of contraction can feel like pain. But in reality, those are interpretations. So a practice that's really helped me is really identifying, okay, right now I'm experiencing more contraction than is in my comfort zone. And a lot of the discomfort I'm feeling is simply me wishing it wasn't so contracted, longing for something that felt more spacious, more calm, more relaxed, more open, or vice versa. Now I'm in a place of total confusion, total I don't know-ness, and that's just more spaciousness than is in my comfort zone. So there's nothing wrong with that. It's just the more spacious aspect of being in this waving web. So really, most experiences can just be lumped, at least in my case, in my understanding, in my experience, into very intense contraction or very intense expansion. And that just allows a lot more openness in dealing with them and feeling them and allowing them to pass through. Yeah, sure, there may be physical pain and confusion and all kinds of things, but, and yes, of course, we'll go on in this conversation and I'll talk about interacting with those. But just when I recognize, okay, it's just an experience of contraction, let's delve in here and see what there is to learn. Or it's just an experience of total expansion, let's delve in here, see what there is to learn. You know, our conditioning, or my conditioning, likes to label everything so much. So many labels, right? And it's so much simpler without unnecessary or excessive evaluation. Okay, so we've got the basis. There's this what we are, infinite being, unharmable. Within it are these nodes of expression, and the nodes of expression experience the contraction and the expansion. So, if I'm a node having expansion or contraction, the spaciousness does have an intuition of how to just spontaneously flow with that. And as a node, there's a lot of curiosity, there's a desire to learn, there's a desire to be fully engaged, which is also emerging out of this infinite. So many people just teach the practice of being the spaciousness and allowing that expansion and contraction to simply happen. And I love that practice. So I'm about to go into other practices. That's probably the primary practice, right? And um, there's no need to go beyond that or go do anything more than just let that spontaneous responsiveness and aliveness engage. However, um, as the conditioning has gently fallen away, there's been processes that I felt were really helpful that I'm going to also share. So, first, I'd just like to go through pain, preference, and instruction. When one of these experiences is happening, I can just check and see, is this an experience just of pain? Is this an experience where my preferences are playing the huge role? Or is this an experience where I just have instruction to receive? So let me give an example. Say my coworker yells at me. So she yells at me, and my energy system is open and pretty empathic. So whatever anxiety caused her to have that reaction starts to also show up in my system. I'm feeling that same anxiety or tension or whatever. There's a constriction. Now, some of the experience is just the body having some physical pain around that constriction. There could be responses in my heart or my chest, in my gut, um, anywhere, in my eyes, whatever. And that actually wasn't exactly caused by what she said or she felt. It actually was caused by the mirroring that my system did. So, okay, now something has transferred from her to me, and my system is mirroring it, and there's some physical pain. Okay, physical pain. It's physical pain. I actually caused it myself. I mean, really, we're in a web, everything's causing everything. You can't put blame anywhere. But, okay, the most direct connector here is that I mirrored it. I mirrored her experience, and perhaps I also brought in history. When I was young, somebody may have yelled at me, and thereafter I got a spanking or who knows what. And so I associate yelling with hurt. So now when somebody yells, there's a sense of anticipation of hurt. So now conditioning is coming in. Okay, so that's just recognizing that there's a lot of components here going on in my experience that aren't anything exactly to do with her. And that to me just starts to open it up. Because, a long time ago, the first reaction was she should take responsibility for herself. She should not yell. She should be respectful, blah, 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 which caused a lot of preference in me. Having those beliefs that somebody should be responsible for themselves, speak kindly, speak respectfully, speak with understanding. All those are merely preferences. Yeah, maybe we're in a society that believes in them, but what is this web? At least in my experience, this is a much more helpful way of interpreting. I'm in this web, and of course, there's all kinds of contraction and expansion happening in the world, and it is going to flow right through this node where I am. I can't start blaming the different parts of the web. That is the nature of the web at this point. So, my preference that people treat me a certain way or whatever, yeah, I mean, I'm not saying we shouldn't have these preferences. I'm not saying that there aren't moments when it's nice to have an interaction with somebody and reach understanding and find harmonious ways of agreeing. I'm not challenging any of that. All I'm saying is, in the moment when somebody's upset, oftentimes that is not the best time to negotiate. And certainly, as the upset has already been expressed in my system, my preference is not helping. It's creating more resistance. At least that's what happens in my body. So the preferences that think, oh yeah, things should be better, just create more resistance for me. So I've looked at those preferences over and over using the techniques in the rest of the channel. And I want people to have their experience because that's usually part of them going through. And I can be on the peripheral of those experiences as needed. There's many opportunities to just walk away from a situation. That's great. I totally honor that. And there's opportunities to just relax in and notice maybe I'm not being harmed. Maybe I'm the spacious presence helping be the blanket, the cushion in this experience. Maybe I'm the cushion Or the trash can. I'm the one that just gets to receive this contraction and usher it down into the trash can, ground it out of the whole web. You know, the contraction can pass and pass and pass all the way through, rippling and through the whole web. But there's little points in the nodes that are so grounded that when the contraction comes there, it just kind of grounds out the whole web. And maybe I get to be one of those grounding nodes. So I really explored new ways of seeing this so that my preferences aren't so firm anymore. Now, to get to that experience, I really had to know how innocent I am. The moment that there's any guilt, any suspicion that I'm inferior, any suspicion that maybe I'm at fault, any suspicion about myself, any sense of inadequacy, if I have a sense of inadequacy, then when somebody else's blame, somebody else's hurt, somebody else's reaching out because they feel inadequate, if I have that, it will resonate in me. And now it's my own inadequacy actually that's causing the contraction. So a second part of the preference is I have to learn to be grounded in my innocence. Because without the innocence, I won't see the preferences. I will instead just be responding out of my own guilt, my own inadequacy, my own inferiority, and how can I let go of preferences when I've got those beliefs going on? So, in a place of innocence, I can see the preferences, and then I can actually notice the spaciousness that I am. And the experience changes completely. Like I just said, I can become a grounding node rather than a place that's, furthering the contraction by my own reactions. So, preferences are part of being human. There's nothing wrong with preferences. But once something has already happened, a preference about what should have happened is no longer helpful. Now I want to figure out, how can I prefer this? Since this is my experience right now, how can I prefer this? Because that's lining up with the infinite that I am. The infinite that I am erupted as this experience. And if I'm rejecting it, it's hard to notice the infinite that I am. But if I'm inviting it, then I actually also notice the infinite that I am. Sometimes, there were the three categories: the pain, the preference, and the instruction. Sometimes the primary thing is simply instruction. Maybe what my coworker yelled at me about, there's actually a new behavior that might be helpful. Now, that doesn't mean, oh yes, that's the best way for people to share their their requests, yelling at me. I'm not endorsing that. All I'm saying is, in the space of innocence and spaciousness, I actually can also notice, oh, she's got a sensitivity around something. There's a way I could accommodate her that I hadn't even noticed. I can keep my bag in another room, or I can put the pen back in a certain place, or, there's lots of different things that I didn't realize were causing challenges for her that I could do differently. And as an innocent person, I can just take that as, okay, well, she said it a little loudly, but generally all she really meant was, would you please put your bag somewhere else? I can do that. So I do translate, and, people have different views about that. But if somebody's really upset, okay, I know they've just had something in their body that made them really upset. So, but if I take away their upset, was there actually just a simple, calm request underneath? And there might have been just something simple. So I can translate, oh, what she really meant was, would you please put your bag somewhere else? So I don't have to wait and teach her how to do that. I don't have to be dependent upon her maturation process to be able to receive the communication. I can just discard the tension because I'm innocent. I don't have to take it in and rehear the simple request. Okay, now there's so much more that could be unpacked in this, but I'm trying to do an overview here. So, basically, what I was just saying is that any of these intense experiences, I can just check in and see, is there some physical pain to deal with? Is there any preferences to deal with? And is there any instruction to receive? Um, Say it's just a message from my own body. I interacted with a food, a light, a sound, energetic realm, in the world. And now I can just check, is there pain that I need to just deal with? Is there a preference that I can unravel? Is there simple instruction? Don't eat at this time of night. Very simple instruction. So I can just check what are the things here for me to open into in this experience, so that instead of it being layered with all of my conditioning, it opens up to just a much more simple thing. There's contraction, where there's extreme expansion, where there's a lot of uncertainty. Let's just feel into, okay, it's just a simple experience. Where is there physical pain? Anything to do about that for me to do? A preference that may be exacerbating it, especially if I don't feel innocent. Noticing my innocence is really helpful. And then, is there an instruction for me to receive out of it? These things have helped me get so much out of intense experiences that happen being a highly sensitive person. It just, it makes the experience actually an interesting learning, and it also brings me back to awareness of this infinite that I am. Once I've gone through those processes, I actually feel even more capacity to notice, yeah, I'm okay, and this that I am hasn't even been harmed. And there's just this willingness to open to life and notice the joy of life. So there's a lot more aspects. I'm going to go ahead and close out this video and do video 2, just so that if people want to review or, check into these, it's easier to find it because there's 2 separated videos. So this is not the end. I'm going to do the second part right now. But this, any experience, any intense experience, it may feel like it's alienating me from this infinite that I am. But that's impossible, right? What we are is what we are. And the experience itself is merely an intensity within this space. There's nothing wrong. This web that we are creates every experience. And there can be this arising of, can I interact with this experience to help move it through, to help decrease its pain, to help learn from it, to regain my ability to interact knowing this that I am. So this is all very accessible actually with time. But what we are has an interest in all of our experiences. And there's nothing wrong. We are innocent. And as I sense into that, one of the things that helps is just noticing, is there pain here to deal with? Is there a preference here to deal with? Am I knowing my innocence, or is some of my preference motivated by trying to prove innocence? And then, is there just a simple instruction for me to receive? Okay, and I'll move on to the second one.